What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of Loop Live. I'm joined here with my friend Jason from OnSong. Jason, how's it
Hey.
going, man?
Oh man, it's going great. It's good to see everyone today and talk about a couple things that are going to be coming up here shortly with Loop and OnSong and a lot of other awesome tech companies that are involved in worship.
Yes, we're going to talk about the Worship Innovators Conference, which I am so excited about this conference. Registrations have been going up, and we've got a big turnout that's going to be happening in Chicago for the Worship Innovators Conference. If you have not heard of the Worship Innovators Conference, let me just give you a quick overview of what it is. All right. So, because this is a unique conference, it's not like other worship conferences. This is a conference that's all about practical training for worship leaders and how to use technology in worship, how to use different software applications, hardware out there to make worship planning easier. So it's very practical. It's
Mhm.
not like, hey, come to this conference and get spiritually refreshed from your burnout. There's a lot of great conferences that are for that. This is more of like, come to this conference for a 2-day intensive training on how to lead worship. Everything from building effective worship sets, scheduling volunteers, how do you get chord charts digitally to all your team? How do you use tracks? How do you automate lyrics and lighting? How do you live
Mhm.
stream? On and on and on. We have tons of classes, and what's cool about this conference is that it's run and led by all of the leading worship companies out there who have created a product or a service that's helping worship leaders on a week-to-week basis. And so, Jason, you are one of those innovators. You are with OnSong. Tell us a little bit about what OnSong is. I'm going to pull up the website while you're talking, and you can even talk us
Yeah,
through it
yeah.
if you'd like to.
Yeah, so OnSong started as a humble chord chart reader back when the iPad first came out. I kind of was in a worship team meeting and we were trying to get organized, and my worship leader said we got to make binders and put all the plastic sleeves together and everything. And at the time, I was making iPhone apps, and I said, we got to make an app for that, right?
Mhm.
Being an entrepreneur, I was a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I thought, boy, this could help solve a big issue for a lot of people. So OnSong was one of the first 2,000 apps on the App Store for iPad. And since then, it just kind of got a life of its own. We had a lot of worship leaders. And I know, Matt, you have said multiple times that worship leaders and those involved in worship and music are all innovators. We're all trying to do things more effectively and obviously trying to prepare and doing worship every week. It's a tough challenge to make sure
Right.
you're on task and getting all your musicians on the same page. So the Lord really put on my heart to go and start working on something that'll make it easier for not just my worship team, but he showed me, thousands of worship teams around the globe, and what impact would that have on worship. So that was back in 2010, and I can say that OnSong is still under active development because of all of you who have said, "Boy, if you could just do this thing, that thing, the other thing,"
Yeah.
and we just keep rolling with
Yeah.
it. So,
There's never a
but it's
shortage of feature requests.
there never
That's for
is,
sure.
and it really the challenge is, what do you say yes to? What do you say no
Yeah.
to,
Right.
or wait? It's kind of like when you pray, right? It's yes, no, or wait.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, so we're continuing to go on it, and we just love hearing from our
Yeah.
users.
So I'm looking at your website here. It says all your music all the time. Your music goes everywhere your device goes. All right. So it's an app for your iPad, or does it work for iPhone too?
Yeah, so it's a universal app, so it'll work for iPhone, iPad,
Cool.
and with our OnSong 2022 version, we now support the Mac as well.
Yeah.
So you can put it in a window. So if you're running, Loop, if you're running any other software, maybe you have Ableton set up on your Mac, you can also have OnSong in a window as well, and just have one device on stage.
Yeah. This is awesome. Okay. So what else can you do within the apps? You can store all your songs, organize like a set list. Any other
Sure, sure.
features you want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
focus on?
the music is obviously the core there. We make your music take up the entire screen. And when I say music, it could be lyrics, it could be chord charts, it could be music notation and score. Almost any file you can import and then bring that in as a song. But that just is what you revolve around. OnSong can also do lyrics projection. It can do backing tracks. It can do
Wow.
something that's really cool is it's a MIDI controller as well. So that means if I bring up a certain song, it can send out that information to my pedal board, to my keyboard rig, to my vocal processor, and configure all that on stage. I don't have to think about it at the moment. I just go to that song, bring it up, and my rig is ready
Wow.
to go. So it does a lot in that sense. We'd say it's a Swiss Army knife for musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of users don't even touch some of the functionality, but it's nice to know that it's there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And then you can use different foot controllers and things with it to
Yeah, and I
control.
think that's the thing that a lot of people, maybe Matt, you have this situation where people want to use tracks, but they're not
Yeah.
quite sure what to do or how to get there, technically speaking.
Yeah.
And so we do work with a number of manufacturers. One of the cool features is you can hook up a wireless foot pedal. We definitely have a great partnership with AirTurn, but you can just push a foot pedal and go not just down through your song, but also throughout your entire set with just one foot pedal press. So you're not, reaching for the paper, trying to fiddle with that while you're on
Right.
stage.
Right.
Um, it's also an iPad, so it's backlit and it's not going to
Yeah.
blow away. So if
Yeah.
you're playing outside, it's always lit, so you can play in the dark. It doesn't blow
Yeah.
away. If you get a nice case for it, it can
Yeah.
rain, and you can keep on going.
That's a huge plus. So, can you import songs from places like Praise Charts or Song Select?
Yeah, so OnSong was built out of the needs for the church. However, at this point, about half of our users are house of worship and half play pubs and clubs and everything on the secular side too. So
Yeah.
OnSong can import things from Song Select. We have native import for that. We've just added Praise Charts integration, which is awesome because you can import not just chord profiles, which means you can transpose them on the fly without an internet connection, but you can also import all of their assets, including full score, if you wanted to do that. And then we also work with some other smaller players, but one of the big players is also Planning Center, right? So if you're in worship, you've heard of Planning Center. And so OnSong can import your plans and your services. And then just other places too. Dropbox, a lot of people have their stuff already written. You can write chord charts that you want
Yeah.
right inside the app even.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So, go check out onsongapp.com for more information about that. Now, if we're looking at Worship Innovators, so the Worship Innovators Conference is October 10 and 11, and it's in Chicago, which we did a virtual one this past year, which went really well, but it's not the same as being in person. And so we're really excited to actually do an in-person meetup with worship leaders from all over. We've got people flying in from everywhere for this conference, which is going to be really fun too, just to meet people who are a part of Loop community or a part of, look at all these companies that are going to be a part. So, people who are a part of OnSong or people who are a part of Worship Artistry, Song Select, Planning Center. We've got all the communities here are going to be together in Chicago. It's going to be a really, really unique conference. So we've got you in here. Well, there's Aaron Stewart. He's coming from Planning Center, and Jason from OnSong.
Yeah.
And we've got a great lineup. We actually recently added Sherry Gould, who's going to be doing a vocal workshop for worship leaders. Nate Scott is coming from CCLI. And
Sweet.
we also have this guy, Alex, from Worship Ministry Training. He does online courses for worship leaders and churches, and he has a lot of really great content. I just met him probably 6 months ago for the first time, and I've just really enjoyed my conversations with him. So let's talk about, what are you talking about? So here's all the workshops we've got. These are all practical training. You're doing one. You might even do two. We're going to figure that out after this probably. But tell us about, what is this workshop that you're going to be teaching?
Yeah, so this workshop, pretty much I could talk about all kinds of things worship related, music
Yeah.
related, but for me, getting organized and staying organized as a worship leader has always been a challenge. I found that I'm not the most organized person in the world, and when you're dealing with things like paper, things get out of alphabetical order. I don't have the right key, all kinds of things, and that's what OnSong solves for a lot of people. And on that list of companies, there's a lot of great companies that are doing similar things. We're trying to get organized, play better, get ready for Sunday. That's what we're going to be talking about. So not only getting organized, picking the right song, working with integrating with Song Select and Praise Charts and so forth, but then also some of the more advanced topics as too we'll touch on as well. Just how you could use maybe just a simple iPad on stage that can do much more than you can with your paper binder.
So you've been in worship for how many years have you been doing worship music?
Well, I started my testimony is when I was I think about 13 years old. I came to the Lord at a Christian camp, and they told me, God's going to give you a gift. And that year, I went into, I think it was junior high school, and I sat down at the piano and I started playing a song we were doing in choir. And so, like, my music teacher was like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know, I just kind of heard it and made it up and figured out the chords." So I feel that God's given me the gift of music and technology. So it really started back in high school, but I didn't really get on a worship team until just I think out of college, I started doing that. So um, it's been a long time. If you from about the turn of the century, I could say now. So about
Yeah.
20 years.
So, in your years of being a part of worship ministries, where would you say worship leaders seem to be the most unorganized? Where do you think they could use the most help?
Hmm. Well, working with your worship team is always a challenge because you have a lot of people, different personalities. Um, you know, it's a lot of times it's obviously part science, but it's also a part art, and it's part being a psychologist as well, and figuring out how to get people together and organized and rallying around one thing. So, I think tools like OnSong, I think tools like Loop and tracks and click tracks and all that stuff can help a team get tighter together. And when that team is tight, it's like nothing can stop you. You kind of work as one entity, one organism, and you can hear from the Lord and move in that direction. That's a wonderful thing. I think technology is a huge thing. I see so many churches that struggle with sound tech, lighting tech. And so trying to make that a little simpler for folks is always a good thing. So hopefully what we do as a collective body, as worship innovators, is to make those jobs easier, to provide that training. There's a lot of training companies that are on that list that you want to talk to. Come to the conference and get your team ready to go for Sunday morning. That's what it's all about.
That's right, man. So, tickets are on sale right now. $99 for a ticket, or bring an entire group for $49 a person.
Wow.
So
Wow.
make sure you go get your ticket at worshipinnovators.com. This is the auditorium where we're going to be in. It's really a sweet, um,
Sweet.
really cool space, high technology, but it's going to be a really great place to have a conference. We are going to give away 2 tickets on this live stream. So if you
Mm.
guys are watching this video on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are, what I want you to do is type down in the chat, type down in the comments, what is the biggest struggle that you have as a worship leader or as a worship team band member? What's like an obstacle that you face maybe every single weekend or every week as you're planning your worship service? Maybe it's a rehearsal thing or a sound check issue or volunteer issue. What's like the hardest thing you face as a worship leader? We're going to type it into the chats. We're going to pick 2 people and we're going to give away a free ticket to the Worship Innovators Conference. So make sure you do that and we will contact you. But Jason, I'm looking forward to this, man. It's going to be a really good event.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting about it, and I think what the heart behind it is that this is all a lot of companies who were started out of faith, and we're all coming together.
Yeah.
It's not like the world. We all want to work together. We all want to help worship leaders, and that's what it's about. And so we want to meet you. I mean, that's the whole point. We're not going to be behind bulletproof glass or anything. Hopefully not. But we're going to be out and talking with you guys about new ideas, new ways that we can do things better, not just as our own companies, but together as a body of Christ.
Jason, tell us a little bit about how NAM was. Did you go to NAM this year? I
Oh,
missed it. Give us an
yeah.
overview
Well,
of what NAM 2022 was like.
yeah, I think the best part of NAM 2022 is probably the worship meetup put together by the folks over at Worship Musician. Everybody was there. I mean, a lot of the main players, a lot of the guys you're going to and girls you're going to see at Worship Innovators, and it was great. It was a great mixer. NAM was definitely not the NAM that I've been to. I've started going in 2014. It was much smaller. It's starting to come back though, which is nice. For me, it was a struggle. I was sick the whole time, so I apologize
Oh,
if I didn't get to talk to you. But what we just go because we know that's where the musicians are. There's a ton of worship leaders that go there, and a lot of times we meet people, and it's like church. You're in the middle of this loud. It's like Guitar Center
yeah,
on steroids.
yeah.
Everybody's playing something different, but yet you meet people that make a huge difference, and so we go for that. And the networking and everything.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be changing the time over the next 2 years and getting it back to a winter NAM. And hopefully by then it'll be back to kind of its former self.
That is what I like about NAM is all the connections and the people you get to meet from all over and all different types of music. But what I do
Yeah.
not miss is what you referenced about the loud guitar center times 10. Honestly, I
Yeah. I
walk
was
around
over.
that entire week wearing earplugs, and it's just
I walked
like,
over to the drum section, and there's just like about 20 different drum beats and probably more going on. And this guy looked at me and he said, "Are you a drummer?" And I said, "Do you think I'd be over here if I wasn't?" It's just it's a little bit much if you're not used to it. But most of us musicians, we're used to hearing a bunch of different things going on at once because that's what the drummer does when you're getting
yeah.
ready to practice, right?
My favorite place to walk around in NAM is, and I don't know if they did it this year, but it's down in the basement where all like the new startup kind of companies
Oh
are.
yeah.
And you get the guys who are like, the new electronic company who are making just really weird instruments. I love walking
Yeah.
around that area. Did they do that
Yeah,
area this time?
they didn't do it this year. I think it was just because they were trying to minimize the floor space they used. But there were a lot of great companies there that were unique and different, and just these
Yeah.
really cool small ideas. And in years past, I didn't do it this year. I would do interviews with a lot of these companies because it's just they'll come up with the simplest thing, and it's like you just changed my life with that simple thing.
Yeah.
One of the products I bought was it's called No Nuts, and it's literally like this silicon sleeve that goes on your drum set, and you can just put your cymbals on it, and there's no twisting the wing nut around to get the cymbals on and off, and it sounds great. And it's just an innovation, and that's what's really cool about NAM, and that's what I think you're going to see at Worship Innovators is just this innovation happening in real time when all these companies get together and meet you guys. So that's the exciting part, right? That's the exciting part of music and
Yeah.
just life in general. Sing a new
Yeah.
song, right? And it just is just a new way to sing
It's gotta be
sometimes.
fun. And you do have to like stretch yourself to learn new things. So many times as worship leaders in churches, we can kind of just get in the same routine, using the same almost set list formula, the same products every time. And I think that events like this are just helpful to just help open your mind and just explore what else is out there. It doesn't mean that you have to actually implement it all at your church. But I do
Right.
think that some of your best ideas will come from just being exposed to other ideas. And you may not actually like use what you learned at the conference, but something else might actually spark in you. And maybe it's something totally new that you wouldn't have done before. And that's why I think these types of events, or even like NAM, are a great event for worship leaders, musicians to go to, is that you just expand your mind and you get exposed to new ideas, new things. So,
Well, it's
anyways,
that networking too. You're talking
yeah.
with other worship leaders and you go, wow, I'm not the only one that has that problem, or I'm not
Yes.
the only one that had, maybe we could talk about that cool solution I came up with. And that benefits the whole community. And, after the
Exactly.
pandemic, man, community is what it's about, I think. We all just want to
Yeah.
get together and begin doing life again. So come on out. I
That
mean, it's going to be Chicago. I've never been in Chicago, Matt. So you got to tell me
what?
what's cool out there,
Okay.
man. I
That's a
know.
great time. It's a great time of year to be in Chicago too. It's not too hot, not too cold. The fall in Chicago is great. So I will say, um, what you were just saying too is I think what would be really cool to do at Worship Innovators is ask to actually get people into smaller groups to like, hey, a live streaming group where people actually talk about, hey, here's the issues we've been dealing with live streams, and people can kind of be like, oh yeah, I've had that same issue. Or here's what I've done to solve it. But same thing with like
Mm.
sound checks and chord charts and everything.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it'd be cool just to connect worship leaders in that way. So I'm excited about that.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me for this live stream. And if you have not, go to worshipinnovators.com, get your ticket. There is limited space. So make sure you get your ticket now. If you're thinking about it, get it now. Worshipinnovators.com. Also, type down in the comments, what's your struggle as a worship leader, worship team,
Yeah.
and we're going to choose 2 people to win a ticket. So anyways, hope to see you there.
Awesome. Great. Thanks,
See you.
Matt. Nice hanging out with you.
Yeah, see you, Jason.